All right, so this next video is we're going to talk about that third cause for the reason why World War II is going to begin. All right, we're going to talk about the failure of appeasement. So we talked about the failure of the League of Nations, and these kind of go hand in hand, really, because it is the League that is going to fail in this scenario as well, and it is going to be Axis powers expanding. So it's kind of an extension of this, but we really want to talk about this concept of appeasement. You're like, appease what? Don't worry, we'll get into it. All right, and so basically Hitler's actions, Hitler is going to start to be, he's going to watch what's going on in the world. He's going to watch what just happened with the League of Nations, what they did to Japan or didn't do to Japan, what they didn't do to Italy. All right, they didn't do anything to Italy when they invaded. They didn't do anything to Japan when they invaded. So none of this stuff is happening to them. So that's going to give Hitler, he's going to be like, all right, well, if nothing's happening to them, they're just going to sit by. They might be mad at me, but I'm like, what do I care? They're not going to actually go to war with me, so I'm going to start doing some stuff. All right, and so you see him just kind of thumbing his nose at the spineless leaders of democracy. All right, Hitler is going to gain a lot of popularity with the German people. All right, because he's going to go during the Great Depression. People are desperate, but he's also going to talk about how he's going to reverse the Treaty of Versailles and return Germany to greatness. People like that. All right? And one of the first things that he does once he takes over, we ended the last unit with Hitler taking over, is he's going to basically institute his own New Deal policy during the Great Depression. Now, FDR started in the United States getting people back to work. Hitler's going to do the same thing. He is going to get people back to work, but he's going to get them back to work while they are building up his military. All right, so he's going to be building up a military, which is not allowed by the treaty, and he's going to get people back working again. All right, and this is going to be really important because while other countries are cutting funding, they're getting money from the military. They're taking money from the military and they're putting it into to get people back working, and they're funding projects to get people back working. And Hitler's doing the similar concept, but he's doing it to build his military up. All right, and so people are excited that they have a job. Hitler's gonna, with his job creation program, gonna bring down the military while he's got this shiny new army. So the first thing he's gonna do against the Treaty of Versailles, and that's what we're gonna talk about this whole time, is Hitler reversing the treaty, which he's not allowed to do, build a new military. Well, what do we do with our shiny new military? We got to take back what's rightfully ours. Hitler observed the inaction of the League of Nations, Japan and Italy, so now he's going to say, all right, so his first really overt act is going to be to take back the Rhineland. Now, if you remember, the Rhineland was a demilitarized zone. It's on the border of Germany and France. It was an area where the French said, you can't go there. Remember, this is where the French invaded in the last unit to take over their factories. The Germans could not have military forces there. Hitler says, we're going to go in and we're going to take this area over. All right, so Hitler's going to openly disobey the treaty and say, this is going to be our land. It's in German, so he's not invading any other country. I want to be clear on this. He's just taking back the German territory that belongs to them. He's just reoccupying the Rhineland, which is in Germany. All right, so here comes the League of Nations. He's openly disobeying the treaty. The League's job is to protect the treaty. Nah, I'm just kidding. They're not going to do anything. What'd you guys not learn anything from the last video? You thought. Hitler's going to continue the reversal. He feels more empowered than ever. All right, so he's going to continue his quest to reverse the treaty. What's the treaty say? One of the things it says that you can never again have a union, with Austria. All right, that is not allowed. You guys fought on the same side during World War I. You are not allowed to again have a union. So Hitler's like, all right, well, they did nothing to me when I rebuilt my military. They've done nothing to me now that I've taken back the Rhineland. Well, you know what? I'm going to take something else. I am going to take back. I'm going to annex Austria. And all annex means is just that Austria basically becomes a part of their country. All right, and so he, under threat negotiations, he's able to negotiate this where Austrians now are going to be under Nazi rule. All right, and so Hitler is hoping his quest is going to be to reverse the treaty and to unify all German-speaking people. All right, in Austria, that's the main language they speak is German, excuse me. So he wants to unify all German-speaking people. League of Nations will do nothing. Come on, we established this. Even though they are supposed to uphold the treaty, they could have came in and squashed Hitler once he marched his troops in the Rhineland. They could have squashed this here and said, no, you are not allowed to do this. We are not allowing it. Nah, you thought they're not doing anything. Hitler's on a quest to take back land that he lost from the treaty, and he's doing it without any opposition. All right, so this is what Germany looked like beforehand. Before World War I, after World War I, it's this blue territory. He's going to go through and start to this conquest where he's going to start taking over territory. Hitler is going to turn his attention to an area that is bordering Czechoslovakia. This is where many Germans live, many German-speaking peoples live. Many Germans were placed under Czechoslovakian rule. After World War I, when the German border shrunk, a lot of them lived in Austria as well. But remember, a lot of Germans lived in Austria as well. It'd be like, just across the border. Here's the Sudetenland region, is what that's called. All right, so it's this kind of poop brown color. I don't know what you call it. Nearly 3 million ethnic Germans were living in the Sudetenland. All right, and so Hitler said, I want that territory. I want all German-speaking people to be under my rule. All right, and I want that territory. Will the League of Nations, one, risk war and say, no, Hitler, that territory belongs to someone else, or roll over and give him the territory on a silver platter? Tough. Yeah, it's obviously two. All right. They are going to meet with Hitler, who demands this region. They're going to meet with him on 3 separate occasions. And it's actually going to be the Prime Minister of Britain. You might be like, why is the Prime Minister of Britain meeting about territory in Czechoslovakia? Well, remember, Britain is like the key member of the League of Nations. All right, so this guy named Neville Chamberlain, he is going to meet with him, and he is going to say, okay, all right, I hear you. You've already disobeyed the treaty 3 times, but we understand, you're just trying to get German-speaking people. Okay, so we'll give it to you. We'll give you the Sudetenland region, but you cannot have any more territory. You've got to stop. Hitler's like, oh, yeah, Scout's honor. He promised he'd stop after Austria also. Didn't. Wants the Sudetenland, and then he said, I promise I'm good. Neville Chamberlain went back to his people and said, I've made peace for our time. He held up this piece of paper, the Munich Agreement, and says, I've made peace for our time. No more will Hitler expand. Hitler goes back to Germany, like probably just laughing. Like, I can't believe they just keep giving me territory. Nobody is stopping me. Sudetenland was thrilled. It was a joke. So Hitler's like, man, these people are spineless. They haven't done anything to Japan. They haven't done anything to Italy. They haven't done anything to me. So what do you think he's going to do? All right. So what Hitler does is he says, basically goes to the Czechoslovakian president and says, hey, if we're going to attack you if you do not incorporate into our territory, if you don't become part of Germany. And 6 months later, Hitler is going to march his troops into Czechoslovakia, and in fear of being attacked in Czechoslovakia, they stand down. He's able to take Czechoslovakia without force, and it is now annexed. Once again, Czechoslovakia is now incorporated in their territory. Little meme here, little Avengers meme. You stop expanding if we give you the Sudetenland? I don't think I will. Hitler's actions have gone unpunished for 4 years. He's continually disobeyed the treaty, and at every turn he should have been stopped. All right. The League of Nations was just sitting there watching, hoping that he would stop himself, but all the while he's been building his territory, his resources. He's been building up his military while the world just watches. And yeah, I know I used that picture already. And this is where failure of appeasement comes in. Appeasement is the policy of granting concessions to an enemy to maintain peace. All right, it's like a bully wants your lunch money. If you just keep giving to it, he's going to keep taking it. All right, at some point, you got to punch the bully in the face. All right, don't do that. Tell a teacher, but you got to stand up to him. All right, and so many politicians thought that if they give in to Hitler's reasonable demands, they could avoid war. But in reality, it had the reverse effect. It only allowed for Hitler to grow stronger and more bold. All right, and after Hitler had taken the rest of Czechoslovakia, European leaders realized that appeasement had failed. All right, that they had not done it. So Hitler's next move is going to be, all right, well, if his job is to take back territory they lost from the Treaty of Versailles, well, Poland got a huge chunk of territory from him. So Poland's in his crosshairs, but there's hope. He might not take over Poland because of Stalin. On the other side of Poland lies the Soviet Union, a ruthless, maniacal dictator that intimidates Hitler a little bit, is resting on the other side. Hitler hated communism. He hated, they are natural enemies. If he invades Poland, the Soviet Union will not allow for Hitler to be on their border. So what does Hitler do? In a brilliant move, he's going to sign a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. Basically, they agree to not fight each other. And what this does is this allows for Hitler to attack Poland without fear of being attacked by the Soviets. And they're going to actually split Poland in two. That puts the rest of the world on edge. Hitler and Stalin, it shocks the world because they were seen as natural enemies. Hitler wrote in his book, some of you guys did this at Lebensraum, where they said, we need to expand our living space to the east. Well, what's east of Germany? Poland and Russia. He talked about taking over Russia. He talked about his hatred toward communism, which is the Soviet Union. He said how they were inferior, that the Slavic people should be their slaves. And so the non-aggression pact is signed. Hitler's free to march his troops into Poland without fear of attack from the Soviet Union. France and Britain claimed they would defend Poland if attacked. Hitler called their bluff, and on September 1st launched an invasion of Poland. 2 days later, France and Britain declare war on Germany, and World War II has begun. All right. So giving in to a dictator, giving in to his demands is going to be a big reason. Instead of stopping him really early on before he had any real power, they wait and wait and wait, and eventually it gets to a point where Hitler is going to become very powerful, and he's going to take over pretty much all of Europe.